So China just made a big move in the monetary system. So did we just witness a gold-backed yuan or renminbi? So this is what we're gonna be talking about today. First off, it's important for us to understand how the current system works because China is very different from the rest of the world since there is a closed system, which is the domestic renminbi with the total control of the CCP and also a very tight capital control to maintain the peg, kind of a semi peg from the yuan into the dollar. So, since they need those dollars to stabilize their currency, so they are able to really manipulate in such a way that it's strong at the same time but weak as well for export. So it's a very interesting balance that the PBOC does. But on the other hand, the offshore system, so the valves, the escape valves that were very controlled in order for them to participate into the Eurodollar system and thus participate into global commerce, everything goes through Hong Kong. And also Japan is one of the most important players as well, since they provide dollars to that hub. So Japan, Hong Kong, and then towards China. And we see many movements of internationalizing the yuan and trying to bring them to get more countries to deal with those outside of the SWIFT system, which we call CIPS or SIPS. So this has been gradually going on. So this is an interesting moves, but of course, many people just claim that we have a de-dollarization going on, and it's just the end of the dollar. But I believe it's a little more complex than that. So first off, so what happened with gold? Everybody knows that the Bank of China, the PBOC, has been accumulating gold reserves for especially in the last couple of years. But the everything related to gold exchanges or buying and selling the commodities or contracts, even spot or futures, depend on the Shanghai Gold Exchange that is controlled by the Bank of China. But they just did a very interesting move where they launched their first offshore vault in Hong Kong. So that means that now we have a branch of the Shanghai Gold Exchange that allows not only allows a first step from the domestic system into the offshore system. The idea behind it is that people are able to exchange to exchange yuan for gold and vice versa, not depending on the dollar, of course. So getting the pricing in dollars or having the price denominated in dollars, this is based on the global market because it's a language. But the actual mechanics of you being able to transact directly into yuan and go and buy some gold, maybe for your excess reserves, it's one of the ways for China to create some more trust in their plan to internationalize the UN, because they have many obstacles to go through since they have so much tighter control. So this is actually seen. Most of the media sees that as a distrust into the current dollar system, which is of course true. But on the other hand, it's a matter of them providing more trust onto international investors to actually use the yuan, because that's where they have been trying to do in the last few years. So this is a pretty interesting way. However, it's very different from a gold standard, and I'm going to explain why in a bit. And just before we move forward, so those videos, I try to provide more and more tools for you to understand how monetary mechanics actually work and not what we learn at the university. But if you really want to dive deep and know what to do, so how can I invest? How can I take advantage of it? What does that mean for Bitcoin? This is why we have our BI report, and this is our brand new dashboard. So you can see not only the reports, but also our expert video analysis with myself included, of course, and Sina and Wizard. So we take a lot of time to gather the best information possible so you can act on it and create your own portfolio strategy, and of course with Bitcoin included as well. So links are on the description below, and just make sure to use the promo code as well. All right, so let's get back into it. This is pretty interesting because it's a way for international companies or even governments for the matter, so we have a more deglobalized world as we speak, to have some ties to China where they're able to use the currency, but should they not trust it completely, they would like to get escape into gold. So this is telling a little bit more, in my opinion, about yuan itself than a distrust on the dollar system, because this is very different from what we used to have in the dollar at the gold standard, where $20, for example, were equivalent of a gold certificate. So they were completely interchangeable, but with a caveat, at a fixed price. And this is not possible to do in the current situation where we have a whole fiat system going on, and especially China, where you have so much leverage on the private sector. Of course, many people are going to say, yeah, but America as well. We have almost $37 trillion in a public debt. And I agree. I get it. Of course, we know that. But it does not mean that China hasn't grown. But on the other hand, with a lot more of private debt and corporate debt that requires to produce more units of currency, right? So this just backing to gold, it's not something that can be done at this stage, since any kind of credit creation, which is very needed right now, especially the way that China does businesses, or they grow businesses where they produce, we can call it a subsidy, but they have a very specific way to subsidize that has nothing to do with the Western way of doing it. But they really go into the provinces and they create some sort of a Hunger Game kind of competition to really see what companies are going to be the next Huawei's, or other companies that we have right now, BYD and so on, to create technology based on the thinking of expansion that the CCP does. So this is a very interesting dynamic, but that requires debt, and this is exactly what it goes against when it just goes back to a gold standard, because you also need, for any leverage that you create in the system, you need to back it up, which is absolutely impossible if you do that one to one, and then you just break the whole system because there's not enough gold to cover it. So this is a little bit different. This is just a way. It's just a way to really use yuan directly onto gold, but there are many analysts that actually understand that the mechanics for example, revaluation of the yuan might provide maybe there is a whole gap of almost 30% of devaluation that should happen to the yuan towards gold, and gold has been uh, uh, rising a lot in price compared to the yuan. So this is going to be very interesting to see what kind of demand and contracts are going to be closed, what kind of volume it's going to be brought. So just to separate a little bit the narratives, but of course to observe reality where China is making moves to internationalize the yuan. And it's even interesting because we do have the BRICS conference soon in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and many leaders, including Xi Jinping, is not going to be present there. So it's going to be interesting to see, because there was a whole narrative about the BRICS currency, and this shows just more and more how China is just doing it their own thing, literally going for the yuan and consolidating it more and more. And of course, they want to de-dollarize, they want to get out of this system. But as I explained in other chapters, the euro dollar system is very entrenched because it's also credit based. So countries owe to other countries also in dollars, and those debts need to be served. It has nothing to do with the United States. Some of the debt does, of course, but not every part of the debt. And this is kind of a spider web that everybody is entangled to. And gold is one of the biggest escape valves. Of course, I didn't. I know we are very Bitcoin focused. People who follow us are very Bitcoin focused as well. And what about Bitcoin? So unfortunately, officially, Bitcoin is banned in China completely. It comes and goes. Sometimes it's unbanned and then banned again, and they have miners going out of the country, going back to the country. So officially, it's not there yet, but there is a lot of use. So this is why many Chinese citizens as well are shifting to gold, but trying to protect themselves for debasement for their own currency, and not and not specifically the dollar, because it's not really part of their daily lives, so to speak. So this is an interesting move. So let's see what the next steps are going to be. Of course, a lot of efforts over there, a lot of questions to be answered, but this is an interesting move where China is really showing what they're here for, and also if they can create any kind of long-term solution to not be too dependent on the euro dollar system as they are today. All right, hope it was useful to you, and see you in the next video.